Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Soma Conversations. Today, Kelsey Wilson is joining me, and she is, among other things, the part owner of the best coffee shop in the area, in the Issaquah area, and that is Aroma, which is in beautiful downtown Fall City, just one block away from two of my daughter's favorite thrift stores slash flea markets, and also a great place to get records. I found out. I took her down there, and after I got some coffee with Kelsey, I found that not only do they sell great LPs, they actually sell record players. So, yeah. So Fall City's not just an amazing place for coffee; it's just a great place to spend the afternoon with people that you love. So. But anyway, Kelsey, welcome to Soma Conversations. And the first question I have for you today is 74% of all coffee shops fail within the first 2 to 5 years. Why in the world would you start one during a pandemic?
It's a great question. It's one that we definitely wrestled with. So, I own Aroma along with two other partners, Sarah and Emily. And this has been a 13-year project in the making. So I actually met with Emily and Sarah and did a little consulting with them when it was just the two of them. And then a little bit later on, I ended up joining the team. And so they have been at it for 13 years. I've been a part of it for 6. And so this wasn't a new idea or something that we just jumped right into. It's been something that God individually laid on all 3 of our hearts, and then brought all 3 of us together in His time. And there were so many roadblocks along the way, and we all had a feeling that the opening was going to come with a big risk or a big ask. Sarah likened it to crossing the river Jordan, and that God was going to ask us to step out in faith, to step into the river first before He parted the waters. And so it was not shocking to any of us when we had just submitted our permitting in February, and then when COVID hit, all 3 of us went like, okay, this is it. We all had a feeling there was going to be a big ask, and we didn't know what it was going to be. And so all 3 of us, I was actually working part-time at another coffee shop at the time, and it completely closed down, and so I was without a job, and all 3 of us took a few weeks to pray and talk to. We each attend a different church, so there's 3 churches represented that have really helped support us in this venture. And so we all went back to our elders and pastors and community that has been praying for us and cheering us along the way. And unanimously, everyone came back and said, now more than ever is when we need the opportunity for connection. And that is really the heartbeat behind Aroma, is not just to serve an excellent cup of coffee, but to provide a space for people to gather and to connect and to get to know one another. And there's no gathering place in Fall City. There's many bars, and there's 2 drive-through espresso stands, but nowhere to sit and enjoy a cup of coffee with someone. And so we knew that it may look different right off the bat, but we decided it was worth the risk. And so it's now actually been 6 months. We've been open for 6 months now.
Amazing how time flies. Yeah. Tell people who are tuning in, what was the first, or maybe if you can't remember the first, an early moment where you thought, okay, God, wants me to start a coffee shop in Fall City?
Um,
Because I've been hearing about this from you and
Mhm.
Steve
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. I mean, it was like pieces of a puzzle that kind of all came together. So I had a corporate job right out of college. And in 2008, like many people, I found out I was getting laid off. And so I just kind of called all the families I used to nanny for and the coffee shops I used to work at and kind of those types of jobs. So I was just desperate to find any sort of work in the middle of that recession. And so I ended up working at Urban Coffee Lounge in Kirkland and thought that I would just be there for like 6 months or a year. And I ended up absolutely falling in love with the craft of coffee. And I don't necessarily consider myself a naturally creative person, although I do believe that we are all created in the image of the creator who is creative. So we all have that in us, but coffee became like a creative expression and outlet for me that I didn't know that I needed or wanted. And so I just really fell in love with it, and I could not imagine going back to a corporate setting. And so I ended up having an opportunity to make Urban Coffee Lounge become more of a career. And so in my experience there, I definitely felt the desire to own my own coffee shop, but even more so, I had the desire to do what I was doing in my own community, because I constantly felt this like pull of, I had this great community in Issaquah, and we were pretty new to Soma at that point. So we had found Soma and we're making friends and building relationships and building community. And then I would leave and go to work where I was very invested in all of my employees' lives, and I had these great relationships with them. And then I always felt like I was leaving and coming and going and just kind of a part of these two worlds. And I desperately wanted them to come together. And so being a barista, you see people at least once a day, oftentimes multiple times a day, and you just become intimately acquainted with their lives. And so I just had the opportunity to build relationships with so many people in those neighborhoods. And I just thought, how cool would that be if I could continue that relationship beyond just serving them a cup of coffee? And now having Aroma in our community, we get to do that. The relationships that we build here extend outside of our business hours, which is just my dream come true.
What facilitates that? You know, I'm not your daily customer. Although if I moved the church office to Fall City, which isn't a terrible idea, but I'm sure I'd be a daily customer. But what facilitates that daily customer? What makes them come back every day? What is it about Aroma that keeps bringing them back?
Well, specifically for Aroma, I feel like we hear over and over again that people just really enjoy the atmosphere and that it feels different. I mean, one piece is that we're in an old historic home, and so it feels very welcoming and inviting, and that was all very intentional. But then we also know that they're experiencing the presence of Holy Spirit. And I mean, the three of us owners all are disciples of Jesus, and this is our mission is to love and serve our community and to cultivate a sense of belonging. And our tagline or our mission is to cultivate fullness of life. And so for ourselves, for our customers, for our staff, so that's always kind of the lens that we're making decisions through. And so just that, you know, the genuine smile or the welcome, that people feel a sense of belonging and that this is their place and that they have some ownership over it and or share in it. And every, who doesn't love a really good cup of coffee? And we take what we do very seriously. Some really good pastries as well,
Mm. Well, I've definitely visited coffee shops where I really like the coffee, but the service was not quite up to speed. But I have never been in a place where so many people remember my name. I often get greeted by your workers. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever been in Aroma where I wasn't called by my first name, and I don't always remember the name of the people that that are serving me. Usually, I remember yours when I come in, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have known each other for 13 years, so
It's quite a while. But is that something that is part of employee training? Like get to know people's name, or is that just the type of person that you hire?
the latter. Yeah, I can train you to make an excellent cup of coffee. We look for people who share in the same kind of spirit that we do and just embody that desire to build community. And so it's just been so cool to see the team that God has built here. And yeah, each of our employees genuinely loves this community and loves the people and loves getting to know them. And I've been in specialty coffee for a very long time, and I've gotten to work with lots of fantastic teams. And this particular group of people is incredibly unique and incredibly special. It's by far the best team I've ever gotten to be a part of, and we're just deeply, deeply grateful for each one of them. And I think that really a piece of it is that it's bigger than the coffee is the vehicle that allows us to make the genuine connection with people.
Yeah. I loved urban coffee until Aroma popped up. That was my favorite place to go. But Aroma is on a different level. Talk a little bit about the location and what makes it so special. When you walk in the place, it's I don't know. There's something about this one different. It's different than any other coffee shop I've experienced, but it also feels very homey and very familiar in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, as just in choosing a location, I mean, this house was, everything has just been orchestrated by God. So it wasn't just us. And although there has been so much intentionality that has gone into the planning and the execution of this, ultimately, it's just been so cool to see God bring all the pieces together, and all the people like outside of us, in our build out process and everything like that. It felt to me like the clearest visual of the body of Christ, and each of us having our own giftings and watching each person get to step into and just live out whatever their particular gifting was. So many community members helped build or design or just so many different skill sets. And so, but I mean, I think the first piece was God led Sarah and Emily to this building, and he made it very clear that it's called the Prescott Harsherman House, and it was the original telephone switchboard for the Snoqualmie Valley. So we love that it historically has been a point of communication for the Snoqualmie Valley, and then it sat vacant for 14 years. And so we have loved that it gets to now embody its purpose once again, to be a conduit for community building and communication. So I think the building itself is a piece of it, and then just so many people around us bringing their gifts to the table to help us create a space that feels welcoming and inviting, that when you walk in, you feel at home, that you feel like you want to stay. We have kind of 3 little taglines that are a place to gather, an craft to savor, and an invitation to linger.
Mm-hmm.
So most coffee shops, I mean, from a business standpoint, you want to move people through as quickly as possible. You want to turn over seats as quickly as possible. So it's actually very intentional that most coffee shops don't have a ton of outlets, because they don't want you plugging in your laptop and camping out all day. Where as worked into our mission is quite the opposite, that we invite you to linger. We want you to, and granted that has had to look a little bit different because of COVID, but when we are able to fully open up, and then it's been happening certainly in a limited capacity, we want people to be able to sit and gather, to have coffee with their neighbor, or there's been small little birthday parties and in our backyard, and all sorts of fun celebrations. We love getting to be a part of the milestones and the everyday pieces of people's lives.
Love that. What have been some moments when you have seen some of those hope for people gathering, people savoring, people lingering? Are there some notable things like, okay, that's what we prayed for, that's what we were hoping would happen?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to choose which ones to talk about. There's been so many sacred moments here amongst our team and amongst customers. I'll just share one particular story that maybe a month or so after opening, we had a group of women had been gathered out back, and one of them came in. We were already closing, and she was really, really bummed because she just really wanted to bring her husband home a cup of coffee. And so I hadn't fully closed down the espresso machine yet. I had one group head open. And so I said, like, what does he drink? It's fine. I'll make it. And so we made him his drink, and she starts telling her story, and that her husband was just recently diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And so one of my employees came from the back and has some experience with a similar diagnosis. And so he starts talking to her, and they start comparing notes about the doctors that they're seeing and all of that. And while they're talking, I'm writing a note on his coffee, and my other partner's sitting there just watching the whole thing. And she was so grateful that we were willing to make a simple cup of coffee. And she was insistent that it would just absolutely make his day. And to just the timing of everything, and the staff member who was working, and just all of it was such a gift, clearly a gift to her, but also a gift to us, that we were able to be that small little spot of hope and joy in the midst of what has been, this was right at the beginning, so what has been a really difficult year for all of us, and then in a particularly unique way for them. And just watching my employee who could relate, watching him go, this is I'm here tonight to talk to this woman. It was so clear that, and there's just been time and time, so many moments like that, where you could call it a coincidence, but we know better. And we just all of us feel thrilled, and sometimes have to pinch ourselves a little bit that we get to be a part of this thing that's so much greater than ourselves. That God would entrust that to us. And
Amazing. I've never been in Aroma where I could go right up to the front and order a cup of coffee. I've either been in when it's closed. I guess that was the only time when there wasn't anyone else in line. But so it's busy. It's been busy. It seems like at least every time I'm there. But no one ever feels too rushed to just to make a personal connection. And there seems to be a big difference between selling coffee to make money and selling coffee so that you can be a neighborhood connection. I love that about the store. There's a difference. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making a profit, and that seems essential for you not being that's part of the wrong side of that statistic that I mentioned at the beginning. But it's just clear to me that you guys are about so much more than just making money. Talk a little bit about your opening. So we were in the middle of a pandemic. You had just overcome an incredible amount of obstacles to get it going. What were you expecting on day one, and what actually transpired?
Well, so when we made the decision to move forward, what we did was went back to, we had a very detailed business plan that we'd been tweaking for years. And so we went back and we said, what's kind of the bare minimum that we can do? We're in the midst of a pandemic, and so we have no idea what to expect. Do we think we could be open for very limited hours with limited staff, and could we pay rent, and could we pay a couple employees? And so we ran the numbers and we went, yeah, this feels realistic that we could pay our rent, and we were just going to hire one full-time employee and 1 or 2 part-time employees, and we're going to be open from 7 to 3, so then one owner would be able to. So the plan was every day one owner will be there, at least one owner will be there, and then with our very limited staff, we'll basically have 2 people working, because we anticipate that we'll be really slow, or we'll be a takeout only model and all of that. So there was quite a bit of excitement and hype around our grand opening with our fundraising campaign and all of that. So we anticipated that our kind of grand opening weekend would be fun and busy, because so many people would come from out of town to support us and all of that. But we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We had lines wrapped around the building from as long as the weather was nice, through October. I would say to people, why haven't I seen you at Aroma yet? And he said, I've tried to come 5 different times, and you've either been closed or the line's been wrapped around the building and I didn't have enough time to wait. So I am the one with the most practical coffee experience. And so I was standing on bar from open to close every single day, just making as many coffees as I could. And we quickly realized we needed to hire. So we hired some more employees. I called in some favors from friends who had previous barista experience. And we found ourselves with a staff of 14. And we really have stayed that way when Governor Inslee closed down indoor seating. We saw a little bit of a drop off. And so kind of those extra employees who were just filling in and helping us out, they were yeah, we don't need the hours. So we're just kind of doing it for fun. But everyone else, all of our other full-time employees, we have been able to keep on and busy, and we have stayed busy through all of it. And now as the weather's starting to get nicer, it's just getting busier and busier, and we're anticipating quite a bit of craziness come summertime once the river is open and all the recreation out in the valley.
You have quite a bit of seating outside.
Yes.
And, one of the things I love about it is, of course, the porch. And in the wintertime, I can sit on a porch. As a matter of fact, I've been sitting on your porch, I think in about 20-degree weather, and actually had to take my jacket off because the
heaters.
Yeah,
are
the heaters out there are so awesome.
Thank you, Steve Wilson, for those.
Yes, and he gave me a nice tour, and now I'm negotiating with Catherine on Steve installing one on my porch. But what are your plans for the outside? It seems like you could host reasonable size events out there.
Yeah, so to start with, one of our partners on the food side is Heirloom Cook Shop that used to be in Snoqualmie. So she used to host a Friday green market in her parking lot, and she
What's
has
a green market?
It's like her version of a farm, like a small farmer's market. So
Okay.
she just called it her Friday green market, and so she's who provides all of our breakfast burritos and salads and harvest bread, and she provides a lot of our food items. So she is going to be hosting a green market every other Friday at Aroma in our backyard, starting in June. So we're really looking forward to that. And then on the alternating Fridays, we're trying to figure out if we can do live music or maybe do backyard games or some sort of other fun event, so that Fridays can kind of just be a little bit of a destination for families to come, whether it's to the market or something else. So that for sure is the first thing that we are planning. But yeah, even just last summer, it was so fun to see moms bring blankets and like have their babies out on blankets, and just like everyone, we have quite a few picnic tables and outdoor furniture, but everyone would just kind of spread out because there's plenty of room. And so you can feel safe, socially distanced and all of that. And so, yes, we are very excited to continue to, I'm sure that there will be many, many more events. And we've talked about doing outdoor yoga classes. And so we just have kind of had to rein our ideas in a bit given COVID, but once everything opens up, there's plenty of opportunity.
Great. Well, for people that haven't visited, give us a tour. They walk in the front door. So they pull, so they're driving to Fall City. It is super easy to find. Yes. You're just a couple doors down from the market in Fall City, and that's Fall City Redmond Road.
Right, Highway 202.
Yeah, 202. So they pull in, and they're probably there's a little bit of parking on the side on the east side of the store, but you really want to pull around back to parking, right?
Yeah, so there's street parking along the side. We're a small town, so there's lots of parking around the neighborhood. We're right next door to the public library as well. So at the moment, they're closed for most of the week. And so you can also use their parking lot. But yes, there's an alley behind the building that you can park in and then walk through the backyard. But so either way, if you can, I love personally walking up the front steps.
Yes.
It's a big covered porch, and which is just like so dreamy. And in the tradition of the South, we painted the ceiling of the covered porch blue because it's like to kind of give the illusion that you're outside. And it anyways, it's a whole Southern thing that our painter who does historical homes would greatly encourage us. But that front porch is just so charming, with furniture on either side, rocking chairs on one, and then like a larger patio seat set for a larger group on the other. And you walk into, I love that you feel what, it's always fun, and so far has not gotten old, hearing that people experience what our hope was, that they would experience more than a coffee shop.
Yeah, I walk in the front door, someone yells out, "Hey, Pastor Paul," or "Hey, Paul," and then the line kind of snakes around. But the thing that strikes you immediately is this beautiful menu board that is distressed wood or some side of impressive wood, and then all of the menu items, of course, are burned onto the wood. So it's just striking. It's beautiful. You see the Aroma logo in various spots, and the gather, savor, linger stuff is around. But so you'll go around, you'll see some of these food items while you're in line, and the breakfast sandwiches I definitely recommend. And then you go right past the little merch area, and it seems like the merch has been super popular, but I love the shirts look great, and I have everybody I know has at least one coffee cup from Aroma. I personally have two because I work with Michelle, but then you get up and you order coffee, and it's very friendly. You can see into the kitchen behind, and everything just seems very busy and polite and friendly. Then you order your coffee, and I usually sit there and talk with you or Sarah or Emily as my coffee is being made, usually my cappuccino in the afternoon. And then what I also love is then after you get your coffee, you kind of go around the corner and turn left, and they have pictures of the building, historic pictures and descriptions of the building, and then have a nice place to sit, and you can go upstairs, like where Kelsey is sitting right now, which Steve labeled my office the first time he showed me. But then, of course, you can look outside, and the picnic tables are out there. But just a beautiful overall experience of great coffee, plus people you've just met that you're pretty sure are going to become good friends. So I just couldn't recommend the place enough.
Well, thank you. It's all very kind, and it is a gift to us that so many of our friends and community members and so many people came alongside to make it all happen. Like you mentioned, the menu boards, that was Jeb Haber with Together Made, and even all of our pastry vendors come from local, all local family-owned businesses. Our two main pastry vendors are each woman-owned bakeries, and we are their prime and first wholesale accounts. They each kind of had separate business models, and we're the first big multiple times a week wholesale account. So that's been super fun. And and just how everything came together. I love the two rooms upstairs. If you're looking for private workspace, or we like to fondly call it the library, because eventually we'll build built-in bookcases on either end of it. And when people are not worried about touching shared surfaces again, we will have books and puzzles and things in that room.
Love it.
So there's lots of space to work independently, or meet with one person, or meet as a group. And it's we're just thrilled how it came together. I mean, even more amazingly than we could have ever dreamed or hoped, which I think is just a testament to when it's certainly it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of stewardship on the three of our parts, but when you are coming alongside God in something that He is doing, and you're being obedient to His call, and you're letting Him be the one to orchestrate, we've just been blown away at what he has been able to do. And it's very clear that it is not any of the three of us, but that it is him.
Mm. Well, along that line, you've done something very difficult in the middle of this particular pandemic. What has kept you centered as you have, God gave you a call and you set your feet on that path and you started going, but you've run into many obstacles and difficulties and uncertainties along the way. What has kept you grounded these last 12 months or so?
Well, let's see. I mean, I think there's almost kind of two directions that I could go with that question, or kind of two answers to that. On one hand, I would say, and this has been true all along the way, not just these past 12 months, is really listening for God's voice and allowing him to be the one to lead. There was many times when we could have given up because it felt like, a door was closed, or we could have tried to really push forward and force something that wasn't ready to happen yet. And so there was just this really, there was just a sensitivity of holding on to the dream and holding on to the call while fully trusting and surrendering the details and the timing to what God had. And so there's three of us, which one of the beautiful pieces of that is that there's been many times when two of us have been discouraged and ready to throw the towel in. But never has there been a time when all three of us have been in that place. There's always been one of us who has held on to the dream for us and kind of kept it going. And we've all taken turns wearing that hat. So I just think that just really that surrender to, and I can't adequately express how much more beautiful this process has been, and and God's not done writing the story by any means, but kind of the end result of what Aroma has become is just so much more than we could have imagined, and which is, in my experience, is always true of God when we are walking in obedience and surrender to him rather than trying to force what we think should happen. The other piece of it is that I would say we have done and are doing a really unique thing where, it's very much against practical and the advice that we've received is don't ever go into business with your good friends, and don't hire friends, and we have just gone in the opposite direction of all common logic or wisdom. And we laugh about it sometimes and also feel deeply grateful, because conflict is inevitable in life, in work relationships and business partnerships and all of that. And the gift of the three of us and the gift of having some of our dearest and closest friends and community members working with us is that we really speak the same language. And so we know we're going to be doing conflict with someone. And so to do it with people who we know, I am so invested in Sarah and Emily's lives that I can't fathom something happening. And we've had some hard decisions to make, and there have been things that we haven't agreed on. It hasn't been sunshine and rainbows, but I think our wisdom has been in working with Glenn and Susie Johnson, all three of our families have taken their conflict coaching class and the shame class. And then prior to opening, the three of us owners did a half-day intensive to talk through, like, what if someone wants out? What if someone, like, what, all the scenarios that you don't want to have happen. And so we kind of have agreed upon what those things look like. And so just the closeness of, like, the invested relationships that are here. Like, this isn't just we all talk about how we don't feel like we just show up to work. This isn't, like, I don't mind coming to work, and I actually feel sad on the days that I'm not here, because we're all very much invested in each other's lives. And this is a part of how we live out our greater calling. And, you know, our kids are a part of it, and our spouses are a part of it, and our neighbors. And it's just a really, in so many ways, I feel like, especially at Soma, our model is missional communities, and it's not supposed to be about the Sunday church gathering. And the book of Acts certainly teaches us that. And so Steve and I have always tried really hard to live our lives that way. And our life now is incredibly full, and also incredibly small, in the sense of, like, our calling feels really clear, it feels really tight. And so we live in the community in which we serve. And so and our kids go to school right down the street, and, like, it's all integrated and it's all connected. And so which probably sounds horrible to some people. To me, it's all my dreams are coming true, that there really isn't a distinction between, like, friend and neighbor and coworker, and, like, we're all together caring about this community and living our lives alongside one another and serving each other as needs arise. And it's just a really beautiful thing that I'm deeply grateful that I get to be a part of.
So many beautiful, wise things that you said there, as far as staying grounded in the middle of difficulty, the trust in God, and the commitment and the intentional investment in community. I most certainly want that for every member at Soma.
I think that identifying what God made each of us uniquely, and he gifted us uniquely, and he gave us unique passions and desires. And I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago at one of the women's retreats, I remember saying to my small group that I had a friend when I worked at Aroma Coffee Lounge who made jewelry, and she used to talk about how she felt like God put her on this earth to make jewelry. And she's like, that sounds really stupid, but I believe that is what God made me to do. And I'm going to be honest, it did sound a little weird to me, and I did not understand what she was talking about. But what I told those women a few years ago at the women's retreat was that it became clear to me at some point working at Urban that I feel like God made me to make coffee, which feels kind of like a dumb thing to say. But yet I get to, it's bigger than that. Like I said, coffee is the vehicle that God gifted me in and gave me a passion for, that allows me to connect authentically and genuinely with the people around me and with the community that I genuinely care about.
Yep.
John Mark Comer's book, Garden City, is one of my all-time favorites, and he talks a lot about that concept as well. And so I think that's the first work that we need to do, is identifying, like, what is the thing that God gave us the passion and desire and giftedness for, and then utilizing those giftings to serve God and serve others.
Yep.
Because so often we want to separate like our secular work from our ministry work. And I'm a big believer that there is no distinction, that the most mundane and small thing can be sacred and holy. And Aroma has been, I mean, I feel incredibly thankful, and I recognize that my experience in this pandemic has been really unique, because while most people are experiencing isolation, I am experiencing exhaustion because I am here so much and I'm around so many people. And so I have to remind myself, like, other people don't get this much social input that I do. And I'm deeply grateful for that. But I was actually, so another really cool moment was I was talking to my childhood best friend and neighbor out on the front porch at Aroma a couple of months ago. And it was the first time him and his family had the opportunity to come visit. So I'm out there talking with them, and Ryan Singletary comes in, and I say hi, and then he comes out and he stops and he starts chatting with us on his way out. And we start just talking about church and the challenges and how Soma doesn't have a building right now, and the challenges to gathering and everyone's frustration with Zoom and all of that. And the conversation ended up going the direction where I was able to share that, like, I kind of made a joke saying, like, well, I experience church here every day. And then I was like, but the reality is that is actually my reality, is that I do miss the corporate gathering of believers. However, I have the unique privilege and honor and opportunity to not just serve coffee, but to truly, like, to be a part of serving our community. I mean, I don't have adequate words for what we get to do here. And
Sister, that's such a beautiful sermon, and I'm taking notes as you talk. It's just 7-day-a-week faith. You're describing it for you and the people at Aroma. Just beautiful to find a way to love and serve others as your vocation. That's exactly what God made us for, and just beautiful. Want that for everyone, to connect that, just being intentional about the work you do. Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. I agree. I think from the moment I experienced what you were able to create as a leader at Urban, was just that I could see that God had made you for that type of vocation, to love and serve others through coffee shops. And when I think about the things that you've overcome, and you saying that there were times where you guys were ready, two of you were ready to throw in the towel. And then when I contrast that with what you guys have through God's will and God's provision created, man, thank you so much for powering through, because it really is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you for supporting us, and the thanks is mutual. I mean, it is hard work, and in the very, very best way. We are all so thankful and delighted to get to be here and do this. And when whatever the previous question, one of the previous questions that you asked me about, I'm not remembering exactly what the question was that you asked, but I was going to say, I feel like a big piece of this as well, as far as me stepping into what God made me for, and and me staying grounded through this, and then me having the eyes to see all of the teeny tiny pieces of, like, being able to see God in like the small moments here. A huge piece, I mean, that has been evolving over the past 5 or so years. And I think so often we're looking for God, like we're looking for really big or obvious or kind of like miraculous. We're looking for like the stories that we read in scripture. We're looking for those moments, which I have a couple of those moments in my life, like, but those are few and far between. And I think over the past 5 years, and with, once again, working with Glenn and Susie and getting to know them, they teach a lot on the concept of staying vertical. And so staying connected with our Heavenly Father before we try to relate horizontally to the people around us. And in practicing that and really integrating that into my daily life, I just, if you have eyes to see it,
Mm-hmm.
he is there.
Mm.
And
in the ordinary every day.
Absolutely. And so, and just for whoever's watching, and the encouragement of like, it's not just at Aroma. Like, Aroma is an incredibly special place, but it's not because I'm here that I get to see God in the little mundane and ordinary ways. I've been seeing him work, and I've seen his faithfulness, and I have seen literal miracles over the past 5 years because he has been giving me eyes to see them. And so I think the more that we can be sensitive to just the tiny things and how he speaks to each one of us, like something that isn't meaningful to me might be incredibly meaningful to you, and just not viewing those things as a coincidence, but really allowing our hearts and minds to be open to the fact that he is pursuing us and that he sees our need. And yeah, he's not distant. He's here with us. And yeah.
That might be a great way to finish today. God is present with us at our work, at our home, in our vocation, and we got to be looking for him. Beautiful. Well, Kelsey, thank you, and I want to encourage all of our listeners to stop by Aroma if they haven't, and let Kelsey or one of the other owners or workers there know that you appreciate them and the community, and encourage you to think about how their experience overcoming challenges during a difficult time might inspire you to ask God what he has in store for your vocation, and who knows what your steps of faith into the river before it was parted, how that might inspire others at Soma to do similar things. Thanks for being with us today, sister.
Well, thank you, Paul.